and welcome to everyone who's there and online to the 2021 Asia Pacific Solar Research Conference. We're doing a joint online and in-person event this year, which is, as you can see, causing us just a few technical hurdles, but we hope from now on it'll be fantastic, and it's so great to have an opportunity for at least some of us to get together. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the Bedigal people that are the traditional custodians of the land where UNSW is sited. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and to extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are present here today. There are a number of groups who have supported our conference this year. UNSW, who's hosting the on-site version of the conference, CSIRO Energy, ASTRI, ARENA, ITP Australia, ANU, Sustainable Energy Transformation, Solar Analytics, University of Adelaide, Australian Centre for Advanced Photovoltaics, Ohio State University, and the IEA EVPS program, as well as RMIT. So I'd like to thank those supporters very much, because without them, we wouldn't be able to hold conferences like this. Just a few logistics for those of you who are actually lucky enough to be on site. The university is a COVID-safe environment, so please wear your masks inside the venue and sanitize and social distance as much as you can. If an emergency occurs, please exit via the main entrance past Theatre C and congregate at the gathering area, which has directions outside. Okay. Thanks for all of that. Just a few words about the history of the conference for those of you who haven't been involved before. We used to run research conferences through what was then the ANZI's, Australian and New Zealand Solar Energy Society. And when that organisation closed, there wasn't a solar research conference in Australia. So the APVI established one in 2014, and we've been having one ever since. And it's a fantastic opportunity for researchers around the country and in the Asia Pacific to present on their recent research. There's no other sort of opportunity for young researchers in particular to be able to present their work without going overseas, which is even under normal circumstances difficult for students to do, and under COVID circumstances has been impossible. So this is a really great opportunity. The APVI runs this conference, and I'm going to pass you on to Dr. Chris Fell, who's the chair of the APVI, as well as the principal research scientist at CSIRO Energy and a conjoint lecturer at the University of Newcastle. Thanks, Chris.
Fantastic, Muriel. Thanks very much for that opening, and a big welcome from me to everybody attending the conference, both in person and online. I'm going to spend just 5 minutes telling people about APVI for those who may not know. By the way, I'm not seeing any slides. Were we doing slides, Muriel, for this, or are we just?
Yes, your slides, the tech person will put your slides on now.
Okay. While we're waiting, I do know what APVI is all about, so I don't need my slides to tell me that. I like to think of APVI as the representative body for solar research in Australia, and I think we're more than that, but that's certainly one of the things that we are. Our members are the academic institutions, consultant businesses, and quite a few individual researchers that like to just stay on top of what's happening in Australia and to have an opportunity to collaborate using APVI as the means for doing that. We support the growth of PV and solar in Australia, of course, not with lobbying, excuse me, but with research and with good, clear information. I'm not seeing the slides. I don't know if people are seeing slides, but I can just go ahead without them anyway.
So if you have them in front of you, Chris, you might be able to share them yourself.
I don't have them electronically.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, so as well as being the collective brains of PV in Australia, we're also linked to the world because we manage Australia's involvement in the International Energy Agency projects, or at least the two relevant ones, which are the programs called PV Power Systems and Solar Heat and Cooling. And we're lucky enough to shortly be able to hear from the international chairs of those programs to tell you about how their work is going to be presented throughout this year's conference. We organise and participate in projects with our members where, for example, the member institution might do the research and, the member institution might do the research and the APVI will be the partner for knowledge sharing, and we can also be involved at the fundraising stage. And if we all agree within APVI that a project is worth doing, we can help support getting that project up. And that's one of the benefits that we can provide to our members. As you know, this Asia Pacific Solar Research Conference is our annual conference, and our website, among hosting a lot of other information, also hosts all of the past proceedings of the conference. In fact, as of recently, it also hosts the past proceedings of the old ANZIS conferences right back to 1974. And I can tell you, if you haven't read a 1974 conference proceedings for an Australian solar conference, that's quite a buzz. Quite a trip back in time. I like to think of APVI as a national organisation, and our board and executive has good representation from New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. But if you happen to be from one of the other states, we'd really be interested in getting your involvement at a board and executive level, because it's really important, I think, that we operate as nationally as we can. Our website contains a large number of resources, and I had some graphics to show you on the slides. I'm not seeing the slides. I assume you're still not seeing the slides, but so I'll be brief. But essentially, we have our well-known interactive or live solar data map, where you can actually see the power on a state-by-state basis being generated by PV in Australia, and you can play that as an animation. And recently, you can also see forecasting beyond the moment you're at each day, which is quite cool. It has go to the next slide, please, if that's there we go. Okay. You can also see PV performance by climate region, which is valuable. For instance, all of this data is publicly available at one level, but our members get to see it in a way that's much more easy to bring into a database and do specific research with. And that's one of the reasons people join APVI. We also have our Sunspot tool, which you can see. I don't think you can see my pointer, but it's in the top right there. And that's where local councils around Australia are actually using our tool to use aerial imagery to be able to assess the PV potential by looking at shading and looking at where the roof spaces are. And with that, they can get a really good idea of the potential for PV within their council region. and that's being continually rolled out to new councils all the time. We have an interactive, we have a map, a really good map for the status and growth of solar PV around Australia by postcode. And anyway, tons of resource data. And just in the minute that I have left, if we can go to the remaining slide, a project that we're doing for, that we're starting in 2022 is a study of PV manufacturing in Australia. Obviously, this has been an issue going back a long time, but it just is becoming more and more critical, we think, that with Australia installing something like 4 gigawatts of PV a year and being in the top 10 countries for installations and capacity nationally, and producing many of the raw materials for PV, it just and holding significant IP. It's amazing that Australia is still so reliant on imports for PV modules. So we're looking at what needs to happen to really open up that PV manufacturing in Australia. And there's some very, very preliminary data there on the right. In fact, this is really the starting point where we're looking at what it would cost to produce modules in Australia compared to what it costs to import them, broken down by all the steps in the value chain. And in fact, what the aim of the project is to step inside each of those steps and get real data in there and work out which ones of those need work. So that's all I was going to say, Muriel. I think I'll hand back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. And you'll see Chris off and on during the conference.